Dave and Degeneres.
We broke the news earlier this morning right here on the show that the city of Eagle Mountain, through a news release, that it had been victimized by organized cyber criminals or criminal, and they'd accidentally paid a criminal $1.13 million. Now, we had Tyler Maffitt on the show shortly after we broke the news. He's the communications manager, and it sounds like they've got insurance to help cover it, and they're working with the insurance company, but they accidentally paid somebody $1.13 million. We're going to get with an IT expert on how this happens and how we can prevent it from happening in our own homes.
And sometimes I think we have this problem with discounting the gravity of the situation because we had insurance. We hear this all the time when someone gets hit.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all fine because we had insurance. Listen, you're paying for it. Everybody's paying for it. You're either paying for it in increased premiums, maybe you're uninsurable, whatever it might be. Trust me, that is not free money.
We've got to prevent it from happening in the first place. Earl Foote, Nexus IT, live on the line. Earl, before we get started into the conversation, I want to reset for our listeners our conversation earlier with Tyler Maffitt, who's the Eagle Mountain communications manager. He called the show and actually helped walk us through what had happened with this cybercrime.
We were trying to set up payments to pay a vendor, working with Eagle Mountain City on a relatively major infrastructure project over the summer here. Effectively, what happened is, either through hacking or some other means, this person was able to insert themselves into an ongoing email thread, pose as the vendor by manipulating the email address to represent the vendor's company email tags, and then was able to set up a transfer that went to them instead of the vendor themselves. And that's how this incident took place.
And then after, it seems like a week or two, when the actual vendor didn't receive payment, despite the city saying, we've sent it, we've literally sent you the money, they realized something had happened. Earl Foote joins us right now with Nexus IT. And Earl, I would imagine this is just the worst case scenario and probably the very reason you have a job. Can we talk a little bit about how hacks like this happen? How easy is it?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, you two. And certainly the sum of money here, and obviously the fact that it's a city, it's quite a significant incident. These types of incidents are not entirely uncommon. In fact, we've seen them play out particularly in the financial services and real estate industries for a long time now, 8 or 10 years. And as the representative from Eagle Mountain has suggested, usually what happens is that a hacker will gain access to an email account on one side of a transaction here. And hackers are scouting out to figure out who they want to hack. And they probably see announcements around projects from a city like Eagle Mountain and the vendors or the contractors involved. And so they target specifically trying to get access to email accounts so that they can then impersonate, they can follow the transactions. And when there's a moment of a financial transaction that's going to happen, they impersonate somebody on one of the ends and they change ACH or wiring instructions. $1.13 million is a significant sum of money for this to happen with. Most definitely one of our very first recommendations in these type of scenarios, whether it's on your personal financial side or business or an organization, if there are any changes made to wire transfer instructions or ACH instructions, call your contact on the other side. Do not rely on text communication on email. Call somebody and verify the details before you make a wire, because banks oftentimes will have 24 to 48 hours to reverse those transactions and try to get your money back. But hackers will usually strike like late on a Friday so that banks cannot recover the money.
Earl Foote of Nexus IT, you have him live on the line right now after Eagle Mountain in Utah County announced this morning that it had been victimized by a $1.3 million cybercrime. Sent the money to a cyber criminal. Don't know where that money ended up, whose bank account it went into, but they are investigating it. I worry about this, Earl, on a smaller scale, but still financially devastating to families who are getting set to wire a significant amount of money and real estate transactions now done by wire transfer to the person, the company, that the title company, as they get ready to sign on their loan, and they find that $50,000 wire or that $100,000 wire was actually directed through similar means to somebody sitting in their mom's basement in Nigeria. Here's what I suggest people do is take someone with you when you are, now this isn't for cities, I don't know what their policies are, but individuals, take someone with you. Make sure you make a phone call to the title company and get the wiring instructions in person, not via email, not via text. They won't change those wiring instructions. So if a change comes through via email, it means somebody's probably hacked into the system and is posing as your title agent. So that's what I suggest people do, is triple and quadruple check before they send the money. And I don't know if that happened in the case of Eagle Mountain or not, but if it didn't, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it really is. And Debbie, unfortunately, the scenario you have just outlined is extremely common today. In the last 4 or 5 years, we've been brought into several of those scenarios, specifically around real estate down payments. And unfortunately, people are unsuspecting. Wire transfer information is changed last minute, an hour before they're supposed to wire money or something like that, or maybe the night before, and they fall for it. And so it's, again, that phone call is super important, but you've also got to be able to recognize the signs in the email. You need to make sure that the email address is accurate, that it's coming from the right place, that the grammar and the verbiage, and it feels like you're still communicating with the same person, but I still would never trust the information in a text format. When you're dealing with a financial transaction, get on the phone, verify the information before you make a move.
Earl, we've got about a minute. Can we talk about insurance?
Sure, absolutely. We're seeing in recent years, we're seeing insurance carriers begin to back away from these situations, which is unfortunate. I'm hoping that Eagle Mountain will be fine, particularly as a municipality. But insurance carriers, we're seeing when there's negligent behavior, when a situation was preventable by taking a few basic measures, we're seeing insurance carriers walk away from those and saying, you don't have a valid claim here. Cybercrime has escalated really fast, and the costs of it are mounting so fast for everybody involved, including carriers. When people, the insurance isn't the end-all, be-all. If you've not taken the proper measures and steps to protect yourself and your organization and the finances and the data involved, insurance carriers may not cover you.
Earl Foote, thank you so much for joining us. That's brand new information. I had no idea, but that makes complete sense regarding insurance, that if you are found completely negligent, that you didn't follow best practices, that you may not be eligible.